Today is Wednesday, June 11th. We're talking about what both President Trump and California's governor are saying about the unrest in LA as immigration raids and backlash spread around the country. Also, why Army bases are being renamed again, and how the nation's capital is preparing for a massive military parade this weekend. Plus, which states are dealing with record-breaking heat, why an NFL team owner is donating millions of dollars to a cause off the field, and is happy hour out of style? We'll explain. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. For 5 days straight now, protesters in America's second largest city have rallied against President Trump's immigration crackdown. And on the fifth day, things escalated even more. As expected, more National Guard and Marine troops showed up in Los Angeles. So far, they've mostly been helping to protect federal immigration agents as they carry out arrests. Some were also deployed to protect federal buildings. Remember, the Trump administration has now deployed close to 5,000 National Guard members and Marines to the city without the governor's approval. Though so far, troops haven't been dealing much with protesters. And that's still mostly up to local and state authorities who say they can handle it. And last night, Los Angeles leaders imposed a curfew downtown, saying it was necessary to stop vandalism and theft. President Trump spoke about the backlash to his immigration agenda in a speech yesterday, calling protesters animals and a foreign enemy. He's described Los Angeles in dire terms. Though California's Governor Gavin Newsom says those terms are nowhere close to the truth, and that most protests are actually peaceful. Newsom gave his own speech last night, calling Trump's actions the start of an assault on democracy. And he encouraged people to keep standing up to the president without inciting violence. Meanwhile, demonstrations have spread to other cities like Seattle, Austin, Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York, and elsewhere. Activists are planning more and even larger demonstrations in the coming days around the country. But the Trump administration says the protest won't get in the way of more immigration raids and deportations. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth suggested that military troops could be used in other parts of the U.S. too. Already, the Pentagon says deploying the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles is costing $134 million. The Army's big 250th anniversary celebration is now just days away, on the same day as President Trump's 79th birthday. And with that, the nation's capital is preparing for a spectacle, complete with hundreds of military vehicles and aircraft in the streets of D.C. It's estimated to cost up to $45 million. And that doesn't include what D.C. will have to pay for things like street closures and security. The Secret Service says it's preparing for a massive turnout, like hundreds of thousands of people. Plus, there are counter-protests planned, with the largest one being a massive march to the White House. President Trump told anyone who protests they'll be met with, quote, very heavy force. The FBI says it's going to deploy thousands of agents, officers, and specialists from around the country. Plus, there will be Secret Service, the National Guard, and D.C. police on hand. But for now, there are no credible threats to the event. Democratic lawmakers are criticizing this parade as an expensive vanity project for President Trump at a time when thousands of government workers are being laid off. But supporters, like the Army Secretary, say it will boost military morale and recruitment. Spectacles like this are rare, but not unheard of in U.S. history. The last major military parade in Washington, D.C. was more than 30 years ago, after the end of the Gulf War. Remember how the U.S. military renamed 9 military bases that honored Confederate officers? Well, now President Trump says he's bringing back all of the original names. 2 have already been reverted back, and now the other 7 are following suit. Trump says it's because the U.S. won battles out of the forts, and he's superstitious, so their names matter. So the names are coming back, but technically not the namesakes. The Pentagon says they'll now be named for soldiers who have shared the same last names as Confederate leaders. That way, it doesn't go against laws that now keep the Pentagon from naming bases after Confederate leaders. Under President Biden, a congressional naming commission made up of 3 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 4 retired flag officers spent 20 months getting public input and got 33,000 responses for name changes. Now, their work is moot. America's largest Protestant denomination is now endorsing an effort to ban same-sex marriage. Southern Baptists voted overwhelmingly to call for the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that legalized gay marriage to be overturned. The resolution was framed as a way to restore what it called moral clarity through God's design. Strategists cited the successful effort to overturn the right to abortions as a possible blueprint for the new fight. The Baptists' annual meeting continues today. It's being closely watched as a look at evangelical sentiment on a range of political, theological, and cultural topics. Other issues up for discussion include pornography, fertility, sports betting, women pastors, and a lot more. Millions of Americans are being warned to stay indoors this week. Extreme heat warnings have hit states all over the West, and records could be broken in parts of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. Forecasters are warning about the risk of heat illnesses and wildfires, since the high temperatures are also coming at a time of low humidity and gusty winds. Thankfully, by the end of the day today, that heat is expected to ease up a bit. Meanwhile, across the southern plains and southeastern U.S., there's more rain ahead. But the looming storms aren't expected to be nearly as severe as those that broke out last week and over the weekend. We have more news for you still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Honeylove. When I wear anything from Honeylove, I can instantly tell so much thought went into every aspect of the piece, from the feel to the function to the fashion. And for this summer, it's great to know they have lightweight, breathable options that offer support, style, and comfort. It came as no surprise for me to learn that Honeylove is an independent, female-founded brand that is intelligently designed by women who actually wear the products. Honeylove shapewear, for example, it's designed to move with you. No more pulling it down or up anytime you walk around. And if you've been listening for a while now, you also know that I adore Honeylove's leggings and loungewear. Treat yourself to the most comfortable and innovative bras, shapewear, and leggings on earth, and save 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Experience the new standard in bras and more with Honeylove. Now back to the news. Tonight is the opening night of the musical Les Miserables at the Kennedy Center, and President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and their wives will be there. This is a change for Trump, who skipped Kennedy Center performances during his first term. But this time, the president and his team are in charge of programming, fundraising, and staff. It's a change that sparked some backlash, and now even some major members of the Les Mis cast are boycotting tonight's performance. Other high-profile shows like Hamilton canceled their planned performances at the Kennedy Center altogether. Other shows are scheduled to go on even after Les Mis, including Moulin Rouge and Chicago. But the Washington Post reports subscription ticket sales are down by nearly 40% from this time last year. Hollywood's video game performers have been on strike for nearly a year now, but there is finally an end in sight. The Screen Actors Guild reached a tentative deal with major video game labels like Activision Productions, EA Productions, Epic Games, Disney Character Voices, and so on. Negotiations have mostly been over artificial intelligence protections. Performers worried AI could give game makers a means to replace them, since the technology could replicate an actor's voice and more. Now the Screen Actors Guild has announced a breakthrough, though it didn't lay out the terms. SAG expects the agreement to be finalized soon. Until then, union members are still out of work. Some of the biggest tech companies in the world are still making multi-billion-dollar investments in AI. Most recently, the New York Times reported Meta is preparing a new AI research lab. It will reportedly be dedicated to pursuing superintelligence. That's a hypothetical AI system that outperforms the powers of the human brain. To do so, CNBC reports Meta is getting help from the CEO of artificial intelligence company Scale AI, and Meta is finalizing a deal to invest $14 billion in Scale. Of course, Meta is not alone in this kind of deal. Microsoft has invested more than $13 billion in OpenAI, and Amazon has spent $8 billion on the AI startup Anthropic. This week, Amazon also announced a $20 billion investment in creating AI data centers in Pennsylvania. It's the largest private investment in the state's history. And it came after just last week, Amazon announcing a $10 billion AI investment in North Carolina. Now keep in mind, those are just the latest examples out of hundreds of billions of dollars spent on AI just since last year. Google decided to launch Android 16 in what CNET is calling one of its most ambitious mid-year releases yet. This comes on the heels of Apple's new software update we told you about yesterday. And like Apple, Google is also planning a big redesign. But that part isn't quite ready. So this update is more focused on productivity features. For example, live updates for tracking deliveries in rideshare cars, streamlined notifications, new device security features, and more. Android 16 is rolling out to most supported Google Pixel phones first. Other phones are expected to get it in the coming weeks. The owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie, is now spending his money on a cause that could impact millions of Americans, and it has nothing to do with football. He made a $50 million donation to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and Penn Medicine, and together they're creating the Lurie Autism Institute, focused on research. The goal is to help researchers better understand the condition, treatment options, and make a difference in the lives of people with it. It's a cause that's been important to the Eagles owner his whole life, since his brother has autism. His mother launched a foundation to help people with the condition, and a few years ago, the Eagles opened the NFL's first in-stadium sensory room designed by medical professionals to make games more inclusive to autistic fans. Now, many sports teams across different leagues in baseball, basketball, soccer, and hockey have adopted similar sensory rooms and other tools. Lori hopes the same thing happens with autism research, and that his donation will inspire more like it. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, thanks to our sponsor. One easy way that I've found to make sure my kiddo is getting the nutrition he needs is with Hiya's children's vitamins. In fact, even before they became a sponsor, I was giving my son their best-selling children's vitamins and the Hiya probiotics already. Why? Well, most children's vitamins seem basically like candy in disguise, but not Hiya. Hiya has 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk. They're instead pediatrician-approved chewables that my son seriously looks forward to having every morning. Plus, I appreciate that every single batch is third-party tested for heavy metals and microbials in a qualified GMP-compliant lab using scientifically validated testing methods. Oh, and if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods. It's a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with more than 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. Yeah, half off. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website, so go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy, hiyahealth.com/newsworthy, and get your kids the full-body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Now back to Work Wednesday. Grabbing a drink with colleagues after work may be losing its draw. Happy hours are increasingly becoming a thing of the past. And it's not just about drinking. Workplace experts say coworkers just aren't hanging out as much as they used to. No big surprise, the changes started during the lockdowns of 2020 when get-togethers just weren't feasible. But experts also point to the Me Too movement, since after-hours work gatherings can lead to sexual harassment. And younger generations especially are questioning what they should prioritize once they're off the clock. But there are also workers who miss the old days of actually getting to know the people they work with and having part of a professional routine that doesn't actually have anything to do with the grind. It's not clear if the trend will ever come back, but it might be replaced. A recent survey found most employees would prefer bonding with coworkers over a free catered lunch instead of an after-hours gathering. So lunch hour could become the new happy hour. Well, thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show with friends and family or coworkers who may also want to feel more informed on a daily basis. We'll be back tomorrow to keep you in the know with the latest news. Until then, have a great day.